This conference will now be recorded.
And we spend most of our time being the voice for students that are in the higher education program.
All right. Sorry about that if you just heard that. Little delay apparently in the beginning of the recording. So tell us a little bit, since you're both first-year students and we have a number of prospective first-year students joining us tonight, why did you choose to come to FSU?
Sure, good question. So, by the way, my hometown is Detroit. I did my master's in higher ed at Michigan State. I ran the schools that I was going to apply to by my favorite professor there. And so I mentioned FSU, and on my own, I knew I wanted to be at a place that, you know, a program that was well-known, world-renowned. I wanted to study with great faculty who actually, you know, had my similar research interests. And I just wanted to be in a good place. So there you have it. Plus it's warm here and can't beat that.
Yeah. I went to undergrad at East Carolina University in North Carolina, and I had a lot of mentors that constantly gave me this program as an option for grad school. So I've definitely kept that into mind. And when I came for visiting days, I felt at home. And I also had a few assistantships that I could see myself doing for 2 years. And all the opportunities that were available from like the different assistantships and like all the professional development opportunities, it definitely like stood out to me compared to other schools.
I was going to say, we did have a quick question that came in, and since we're good on time, what made FSU stand out from the other institutions where you were looking?
The way I was treated when I came to visiting days, hands down. And actually, kudos to Kendra and Shane, because they were very instrumental in just every little question that I had. I don't want to think of all the time, but they were very nice. And then once I arrived, the way things were organized, it's like trying on a pair of new gym shoes when you go to the mall. You want to make sure it's the right fit, but you want to, you know, how is it going to be if I walk around this place? The tour, the food, everything was well put together, which made me say, okay, if it's this organized now, once I get into the program and really, you know, hit the ground running, that's going to make all the difference in the world for me.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's the same thing. It was very, very organized. The transition process for between applying and going to visiting days and all of those different steps, it was definitely an easy process for me with like applying to like different programs. And this one definitely stood out from an organization standpoint and like a very big like family atmosphere, and everyone was there to help.
Oh, nice. Fantastic. So we did have a write-in question that came a little before. What courses can I expect to take? So since I write the handbooks for the masters in the doc program, I thought I would go ahead and take that one. In the doc student handbook, you'll find on our website, we provide 5 core courses: student development theories, history of higher education, public policy, Oregon governance, and pro seminar, which is my favorite class. I TA it whenever I can. It's a class really designed to walk first-year doc students through the doc program, including milestones, expectations, really to help you stay on track and graduate and not just kind of linger in the program. Pro Seminar also works to introduce various professors throughout the program and the departments, and really tries to help socialize doc students, because as we know, that can be a very lonely journey sometimes. So that socialization is super important. And as a first-generation college student, it was really nice for me because we make a point to define terminology, explain dissertation types and options, and inform students of professional associations. So again, if you're not necessarily familiar with higher education, that's really helpful. We also have a suggested course list for people who would like to concentrate in either public policy or student affairs area, but those are flexible. They're concentrations, but that doesn't mean you can't take the various classes. We also have a set approximately 7 classes for core research, where you'll get a foundation in all types of research and then get to decide whether or not you want to do more qualitative or quantitative methods. That prepares you pretty well for your dissertation phase. And there are a variety of options that we have as far as other courses to take. And I really encourage you to check out our handbook for the master's program. We have a core of 10 courses. 5 are really designed to introduce students to core pieces of working in and learning about student affairs and higher education. So those courses, basic understandings of higher ed, which is a mix of history and present day topics, student development theories, intro to student affairs, diversity in higher education, and leadership courses. Then we have 5 that I consider more practical in nature. So practicum, which involves visiting various institutions around the state to see how student affairs looks at different types of institutions. Outcomes 1 and 2, which gives practical application of building a study and then enacting assessment. So that way when you graduate, you can actually talk about having done that before. 2 internship courses and capstone, which is where students are able to show how their studies and practical applications fall in line with the NASPA and ACPA competencies. And it really helps prepare students for job search. We have a number of electives. Again, that guiding handbook is under student guides on our website, so definitely check that out. So tell them what they might get out of some of those courses, because as first years, you've taken some.
So I'll start. I'm Arnez again. I'm in the master's program, and I would definitely say there's a lot of theory to practice in our courses. So we get to learn a lot about, well, right now this semester, there's a lot of student development theory. We get to learn a lot about the history of higher education, and like we talked about present day topics. We also get to learn a lot about how colleges and universities function. So we learn a lot about how FSU functions as a Research 1 institution, but in one of our classes, we went to visit Tallahassee Community College and also Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, which is a historically Black college and university. So we get to see a wide range of how different schools work and what options there are for you, like as a student affairs professional at those schools. So there's definitely a lot of like theory to practice.
Yeah, and for doc students, so some of the classes I'm taking this semester are, I'm taking policy in higher education. To give you for instance, in that class we learn about some of the different issues and concerns that policymakers might come across. A lot of those top, agencies are in Washington, D.C., so it's interesting making that connection. And we're taking student theory as well, but it's a little, on the up and up, the advanced level. So we have to look at theories, critique them, and in some way, shape, or form, come up with our own theories, incorporating those. So it's very challenging, but it's a great experience because it's forcing us to think extremely critically, which is going to be useful for all the stuff that is to come, right? Absolutely. And then what other class am I taking? Oh, so research, intro to research methods. So Kendra mentioned briefly the code, qual, and quant. So learning what comes with both of those, and then learning how things work concerning mixed methods. So you kind of learn, it's like a foundational course. So you write papers, a lot of group work, but it's very informative. So there you have it.
Very nice. And another question that we had received prior to tonight that I wanted to address was, what kind of career does this program prepare for me? What is your opinion?
All right. So the types of careers that you can look forward to after you complete the program are either careers being a faculty member. A lot of folks are interested in tenure track faculty members, so that's another option. Another option is being an independent researcher. So for, let's say if you want to be an independent researcher for an organization outside of academia, it'll prepare you for both of those, just to name a few.
I would definitely say for the master's program, this program prepares you a lot for many different kinds of entry-level and mid-level careers in higher education. So there's a lot of different ones in the umbrella of student affairs and academic affairs. So now we have a lot of graduate assistants that work in places like admissions and retention programs, student activities, you name it, housing. I'll say there's graduate assistants everywhere. So it's a wide range of careers that you may do. And also we learn a lot of transferable skills. So even if there's something that you can't find in like student affairs or something like that, you can also like take those skills and put them to something that you want to do outside of. But,
I like to call those higher ed adjacent jobs.
Can I add one more thing? Yeah. Just one more quick thing, because of 2 folks who graduated from our program this year. I know specifically one ended up going to Texas. She has a job teaching there, and then one actually graduated and went to DC, and he actually is on a panel like tomorrow, and he works at the Education Trust. So point blank to go.
The executive director of ASH is also one of ours.
So we're not just talking just, oh, this is possible. No, like it really is possible. And then you're also connected with, I guess you talk about LifeNet later, but so you're here, but you have a lot of support, which helps you to be more confident as well. So it's helpful.
And this would be a great time to remind folks that our deadline for the coming year is December 1st. So take some time over the next week and get those applications in if you're interested. And to another question that we have received, how do you manage life as a grad student? Always a good question. Thank you for that.
So managing life as a grad student, the very big thing is, you hear this a lot in undergrad too, is time management. So it's a different kind of time management, but I would definitely say time management is a very big thing for me, between like assistantship and classes and homework, figuring out when you have like busy times and keeping a schedule. I used to be a paper calendar kind of person, but I'm on the Outlook calendar now, so I switched over to virtual. So that has helped me a lot with like reminders of things I have to do. And then another way I'm like I kind of cope with that also is like staying in contact with my family and friends back home. That's a very big point for me, because I moved here from North Carolina, so I'm 10 hours away from home. So definitely keeping in contact with my family and friends from home, and making sure I have that sense of home away from home, since I moved here and I didn't have anyone that I knew here. So I would definitely say that, and then taking advantage of professional development opportunities. So that could be a fun way to like network and see what opportunities are available that you might not have like thought about before. And definitely we get emails about those kind of things every single week. So you can be as involved in those opportunities as you want to. So I would definitely say taking advantage of those are very important for me.
Let me see. To add to that, I would say I am very much a paper calendar type of person. I color code with markers, you name it. And so what I do is I put everything like from class to work, I put that in there first, and then I schedule, I say, because that's the stuff I have to do, and then I schedule the stuff I want to do around it. For example, this week, I need to get a certain amount of work done, because when I chose the graduate schools I was going to apply to, I chose them purposefully to make sure I had family nearby. So I have a brand new nephew in Atlanta who I will spend time with on Thanksgiving, because it's just going to happen. And so, but I have to write that in the calendar. Do your homework so you can get to him. Another thing to touch on with professional development. So we have organizations, COGS, because I'm going to mess up the name. Council of Graduate Students. We have ELFS, the Educational Leadership and Policy Studies, as well as the College of Education. I just went to a conference this month, and I did get some support with funding from the College of Education, which was very helpful. I went to a conference on Black males in education. So just wanted to put that out there. You can get that support as well.
Very nice. And how about living in Tallahassee on grad pay?
Okay. Living in Tallahassee. Okay, so let me give this to why I'm acting like this. So yes, I am from Detroit, but the last 10 years of my life, I worked and lived in DC. So it's a different thing. I'm still adjusting. And they're like, well, how do you adjust? Well, when you do a PhD program, the person has to ask himself the question, what are you willing to give up? So, and then there's that. So I'm like, okay, this comes with the territory. So cut corners here, pay for that, and that you just have to get later. But it's manageable, and I'm naturally adaptive anyway. So I just learned to adapt. And then I also balance, because I have work, class, sometimes like dinner with my friends and colleagues in my cohort, and then I also join Goals Jump, so to help just go and work out and get my mind off things and de-stress.
For me, I would definitely say Tallahassee is a mix between like a college town and a like smaller big city. I come from a really small town in North Carolina, so my view of Tallahassee is a lot different than some people in my cohort or people here in general. So definitely, I would say it's a place that has a lot of hidden gems. So once you start to find like actual places that are like hidden kind of thing, you learn to appreciate Tallahassee a lot more. And that's one thing that I've been like purposeful about. I'm like, there has to be something here. So I always like go and find like different restaurants or different places that have events So one event that I went to this semester was the Tallahassee Greek Food Festival. So that was very interesting to go there and find something that is like really big in the community, and they do it every year. And also I've been to like the North Florida Fair, which is right on the other side of town here. So there's a lot of events, but you just have to be like, have a purpose and try to figure out like what's going on kind of thing.
Yeah. So I've been here since 2011, not all in the program, I promise. I worked at Florida State before I came into the program. And I used to always, and still do, describe Tallahassee as a little bit of a destination station. We are a college town meeting as state capital. We just happen to have multiple colleges in town. We have FAM, we have FSU, we have TCC. So we do have a lot of things going. Depending on where you're from, Tallahassee can feel like a small city or a big town. If you're from Atlanta, it's probably a big town. If you're from where I'm from, or sounds like where you're from, it's a small city. I will say that we have a smaller airport, I just need to be honest, which has its pros and cons. It's a little bit more costly to fly to and from TLH, which is the airport code. But it is here in town, which is super important because that only means, at least for me, I live on the very north end of town. The airport's on the very south end. And that means that it's only like 30, 40 minutes to get home, which is really nice because that means the drive is not far and that the line to get through security is really fast. I have gotten through in less than 30 minutes before, but don't take my word on it, still get there early, folks. We also have some really great parks in town, and there are some things to do here in town. Cascades Park. Definitely hit up a Tallahassee guide if you're interested in coming. But we're also within drivable distance to some of the larger cities. So New Orleans, Atlanta, Orlando, Disney and Universal Studios, not far. I drive a little slow, so I always say 4 hours. Other people are like, 4 hours? How slow do you drive? So it really does depend. Before we transition to our next segment, I do have one question that I see. How many people are in your cohorts?
11.
27.
And mine is 9. So the doc cohort, it varies. And so for the master's programs, it's generally right around that 23 to 27 mark. 25 is like that sweet spot, but that depends on the amount of GA positions that we have, which brings us to a great transition. So as we transition to our next segment, which is all about the GA experience and visiting days, I would like to thank our first year reps. We appreciate having your perspectives on this segment, and thank you all so much.
You're welcome.
Now I'd like to go ahead and bring in our Visiting Days chairs as we move into talking about our Visiting Days programs. Hi guys, thank you. Bye. Small reminder to everybody, if you are joining us tonight, please make sure you tweet your questions to us at that FSU_HISA. We do have a portion where we will be answering some questions, but also that gives us a great opportunity that in the event that we don't get to your questions live online tonight, we can follow up with you on Twitter and make sure we get your questions answered. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So as everyone gets situated, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please.
Hey y'all, my name is Kia. I'm from Tennessee. I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. I'm a first-year master's student, and my assistantship is in the Center for Leadership and Social Change.
Hi everyone, my name is London Judge. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I went to Davidson College in North Carolina for undergrad. I am also a second-year student, and my assistantship is with the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Living Learning Community.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Ricardo Parita. I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I attended undergrad at Gettysburg College in Pennsylvania. I'm a first-year PhD student, and my assistantship is in the Leadership and Learning Research Center, where I get to do teaching and research, and I also get to do research with a faculty member outside of that as well.
Very nice. So we'll start off with a small Visiting Days overview. Visiting Days to me really is broken into kind of two parts. The first is more of the academic side and introducing students to that. To get an invitation to Visiting Days, you will be an accepted student, and so we want to give you an opportunity to meet our faculty, walk through what to expect as a student, connect with our current students who can tell you about the classes, the programs, the costs, the fees, the books, all that jazz. And then the second part really is the large job fair specifically for our students who are looking for graduate assistantship positions. And we partner with both academic affairs and student affairs as employers. The AVP for the Division of Student Affairs actually is our employer liaison. And so we have a lot of good support for that program. I also want to make sure I hit up that visiting days are going to be February 9th through 11th in 2020. So I'm trying to come up with a cute line with that, like envisioning your future, Visit Days 2020.
Oh,
You know, I know I'm a little cheesy like that. So, but so the next question we have is, how do I attend? So Kia London, I know that you both attended in person. Would you like to talk about that experience?
Yeah, so like Kendra mentioned, there is both an in-person option and a virtual option if you participate in visiting days. And so Key and I will talk a little bit about the in-person option. If you choose to visit us here in Tallahassee, you have the option of staying in a hotel, or you can stay with a current student in the program. Master students are paired with master students, doc with doc students. And everyone is matched up with a buddy. Who is a current student in the program. And this is regardless of whether or not they actually host you in their home. And buddies are your go-to people during your time in Tallahassee. They are your support system. They help you get around campus and the city. And they can answer any questions you have before, during, and after visit days. And many of us live together, so it's a cool experience to actually stay with a student, and it gives you a sense of the community that you'd be becoming a part of. But we also completely understand that some students would prefer kind of their own space in a hotel, and we definitely make an effort to make sure that everyone knows what's going on social-wise, and keep everyone in the know about opportunities to hang out with current students and then other prospective students while they're here.
Yeah, so some of the additional experiences that you get coming to campus in person is a tour, which is a really great way to familiarize yourself with campus. There's also an employer social, and so it's a fun way to like mix and mingle with your potential employers in a way that isn't across the table from them during an interview. Visiting days also hosts a few like student to student socials, which I think for me was the most helpful part, to see like what the vibes of the people were in the program and if I could really see myself thriving here in Tallahassee. Visiting days will provide a few meals in addition to the tour and the socials, and so there is a cost. In the past, it's been about $40, and we're hoping to keep it around there for this next year, but just want that fee to be on y'all's radar as you're planning for your finances for this process.
Very nice. And now, Ricardo, I know you attended virtually. Would you like to tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be able to attend visiting days in person, we have the virtual option. Last year I attended virtually because I was working full time, and this gave me an option to not have to take time off, not have to fly down, but still get a chance to get to meet the faculty and get a better sense of the environment at FSU. Attending virtually is free, and you can get a modified schedule. So you're going to attend group sessions and get to ask questions during, which is really cool, and still be involved in that process. You also still get assigned a buddy who's a current student and reaches out to you, and that serves as an additional contact for you. And then all your assistantship interviews, if you're doing that, will also happen virtually. We're really conscious of being as accessible and inclusive as possible for everyone, regardless of their circumstances, and I think this is a really great example of that. Because when I applied for master's programs a few years ago, I didn't really see this as an option for other programs at the time, and I also didn't attend visiting days back then. So I think this is a really cool thing that FSU does, and looking forward to see you all here.
And so going off of one of the questions that we had a little bit, I know that you all are in various cohorts, first years and second years. So can you tell us a little bit about your cohorts and what your experiences were interacting with the cohorts above you and now the cohorts coming in after you, if you've been to more than one visiting day?
That's an interesting question. I am definitely really introverted, and so all of the like it's a lot of interactions, and I think I had to really be intentional about making time for myself throughout the weekend, because at the end of the day, I'm here to get an assistantship and to figure out like if I see myself at FSU. So carving out those times really important, but it was something that London and I are actually hosted by the same person, and she was really responsive to just like who we were and what we needed, which I think that's why the buddy piece is so important, because you have someone like in your corner rooting for you who's been through it before.
Yeah, and depending on how many other schools you're visiting or interviews you have, Kia's right, it can be a lot. And so the buddy system is a really great way to make sure that, yeah, someone's in your corner. I think there's definitely more interaction with the first year students, because they are the people that you will be interacting with that following year. So we also place an emphasis on that and making sure that you're connecting to those students.
And there's the current student panels, which like helps get to know a few of the current students who are probably older and what have you. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're attending virtually, what helps is definitely reaching out and connecting. Because if you reach out to Kendra or whomever and interested in certain specific topics that maybe a current student can connect you with, we'll be able to do that for you. So even if you may not have the experience of like in the moment connecting with potentially your future cohort people or older students, you'll be able to do that either before or after the fact too.
We also try and vary up the kinds of social interaction. So we know some people are better in smaller groups, and then some people thrive in bigger groups. So we're definitely thinking about that as well.
And I would say that definitely be sure to let your buddies or your hosts know your needs. I too am an introvert, believe it or not. And so my buddy was like, so what do you have questions? And I was like, honestly, I kind of just want to go home and lay down. And that has been the most kind thing. Just really being able to have that ability, I thought was really great. So a couple of, so when do you need to make the decision as far as coming in person or virtually? You'll need to let us know in January. So after you receive your invitation to visiting days, there will be a link in that email. It should come from me, Kendra Bumpus. Be on the lookout for that. And you'll basically let us know how you want to attend as you go ahead and move through the Qualtrics survey that will come out. A couple of helpful hints. On our webpage, education.fsu.edu/degrees, and programs/grad programs, higher education, just Google FSU higher education, I'll get you there real quick. You'll find some resources that'll be very helpful to our prospective students. We have sample resume in case someone is unfamiliar with how education resumes look, as well as a sample personal statement. You can find our booklet from last year and our timeline. Is slated to be really similar to what it was last year. I think we've kind of made the decision we're not going to change much in that timeline, really just to provide like a positive experience, because we got good feedback on that last year, so that works. One other helpful hint I will say, because I always get this question, and maybe you all might want to chime in, but you know, somebody asked me, what is your one thing that you wish everybody knew? And I'm going to be really honest and say, go where you have the most funding. While I would love for everyone to go where they want to go, I also ethically feel the need to be practical. Go where you have the most funding coverage. The return on investment for an education degree is something you really should consider, especially knowing that many people coming out of their master's degree will likely be employed in the early to mid 30s. To start, so you really should be cognizant of that debt piece. To me, if you're taking on a boatload of loans, it may not be the best thing to do, but to each their own. As you all are adults, make your own decisions. But that's my one piece of advice. Also, a little something to note, here at FSU, our GA positions do come with tuition waivers, including out of state for the first year. That really reduces the cost of attendance for our grads, and I would say for me, I really appreciate that. Plus, our GAs receive an hourly stipend, generally 20 hours, at a pretty good pay rate. I believe it's between $19 and $20 currently, but our GAU is always working to help us out. to do better as far as insurance, general health insurance. They've been able to lobby for us to get a health insurance subsidy, which is really nice. And you know, our GAU works really hard for us, and we appreciate them.
We now have dental and vision, which is cool.
Yeah,
Very nice.
very nice.
One thing to add about just something to be mindful of, like,
Yeah.
in addition to the funding, go where you have the most opportunity, right? I think especially in student affairs and higher education, it's really about your experience that you get practically. So the places in which the institutions are really investing in you, and you're kind of coming in with a very clear sense of the role you're going to be playing and potentially opportunity to do more, whether that is TAing, whether that is doing research with other faculty members. I think often, even if you get an assistantship, it becomes so fixated on that one position that you're not able to do other things. So I think just constantly be thinking about where am I going that I can hopefully get the most during my time there, so I can then use that and leverage that when you're applying for jobs.
And then we have time if y'all want to jump in with a hopeful hint or two.
I would say I didn't expect to end up in Florida. It was not on my radar, and so don't count it out. You know, I started in Massachusetts, North Carolina, and now I'm in Florida. So we have a lot of out-of-state students, and a lot of students that kind of left their home state where they did undergrad. So don't be afraid to kind of take that leap if you think you can do it.
I think the only thing I have is to just like really trust yourself in this process. I think there's like so much noise and so many applications and so many easy things to get lost in, but like as you're visiting a place, as you're talking to people virtually, like you're gonna feel something, I think in your gut usually, that's telling you what's gonna be the right decision, the right place for you for the next 2 years. And I think that's like really important to try to get through all of that in the midst of the other chaos of getting into grad school.
Fantastic. Okay, so thank you all very much. For the sake of time, we are going to go ahead and transition to our next segment. I would like to really thank our Visiting Days chairs. We appreciate having you on this segment, but also all the work that you're doing behind the scenes for Visiting Days. Schedule. I mean, there's just so much, and so thank you all for all of your
We
time.
can't wait to meet you.
Yeah.
Come visit us.
All right, and so now we'd like to go ahead and bring in our last panelist as we move into talking with faculty as well as some students. Fantastic. And as everyone gets situated, we will let them go ahead and come on in one of these 3 chairs and introduce yourselves. So again, you all know me. Hi, my name is Kendra. I'm the GA for the Higher Education Program.
Hello, I'm Alec Jr. I'm a first-year graduate full-time student here at Florida State University. I'm also a graduate assistant for the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities.
I'm in that position.
Yes, you're good.
Hello, my name is Bob Schwartz. I'm a faculty member in the program here at Florida State.
Hello, my name is Hannah Mizell. I'm the one that's been live tweeting this entire thing. I am one of the communications coordinators for the HESA program, and I'm a current second-year master's student.
Fantastic. We also have Dr. Lara Perez-Faulkner, who is kind of popping in and out virtually. She is flying back from a different country. I apologize, I can't remember which one. But she has indicated that she's also happy to answer any questions if folks would like to tweet her as well. So definitely look her up. Oh, there I see her. So let us go ahead and start with our first question. So Dr. Schwartz, one of the questions that came in is, do you require the GRE? And what if someone doesn't meet the target scores?
Good question. Well, the GRE has sort of become a new hot topic in graduate programs. We have requested that we be allowed to waive the GRE, but that's a graduate school requirement, not a program expectation. So it has to go up the food chain, if you will, quite a ways for a decision to get made. We've addressed the GRE issue with student applicants to the program previously. We look at the entire application, not just the GRE. So undergraduate grades, experiences, references, how that person presents themselves. And we have quite honestly argued in the past for exceptions to be made if a student's GRE is, not quite as high as we would prefer. But there's a lot of discussion around the entire country about graduate programs doing away with the GRE for a variety of reasons, a lot of them having to do with social justice issues, and we're certainly in line with reconsidering that requirement.
All right. And our next question that was given to us previously was, so tell us, what do you look for in an applicant or a student?
We look for somebody who will fit into the program, who is competitive in the sense of intellectual, but also social abilities and higher experiences, especially in the undergraduate experience. We're also open to students who may have been out working for a period of time prior to coming back to graduate school. We're making a commitment, much as you might in any kind of a relationship, that over the 2-year period, will this person benefit from the program, fit into what we offer, and be successful not only in the graduate program, but as a professional in the future.
Very nice. So the question about timelines came up, and so I wanted to go ahead and take that one. Generally, you'll hear if you've been accepted into the program during winter break, generally more towards the middle. As applications are being processed during the break, some people may hear earlier than others, and that's totally okay. Sometimes it's just who's here over winter break and how quickly pieces of applications go through. So after winter break, if you're accepted, you should see an email come from me in early January, which will invite you to visiting days. Would you say that's been kind of your experience? Okay. All right, great. So next question was, what tips or advice do you have for applicants? Would you like to start?
Sure.
Fantastic.
So first things first, make sure you proofread your essays and resumes, etc., before sending them in. I would advise to do at least 3 drafts, to be completely honest. One of those you should look over yourself, the other one you should look over yourself again, and the third one, try to have somebody else look at it, because sometimes we think we articulate things very well and we actually don't. So it's kind of like a mind trick for our own selves. The second thing is, in the personal statement, make sure you tell your story, but also make sure you address the prompt. Try to make them correlate so that you best articulate how your own story and what you can bring to the program both holistically combine to benefit what the program stands for and its missions and values, as well as the institution. So make sure everything comes full circle and always makes sense. Don't spend too much time on one thing versus the other. Try to balance it out as much as possible.
Nice. And how about navigating that portal? Because I know that you are pretty good at that.
Yeah, so initially the portal, it makes you sign something at the very beginning, and then you're kind of like, well, this doesn't mean I need to submit the application. No, what you have to do is to actually sign the portal that says, okay, yes, I agree to pay the $30 application fee. And then from there, you have access to your letter of recommendation. You can just type your professor or mentor or supervisor, etc., name in that field, and then they will receive an email notification from there. And you can also submit all your other application materials through that next portal. So that initial portal may come off as confusing, as if the application was done, but in fact, you just press next, and it will all end up being okay.
And talking about those recommendations, please make sure you talk to your recommenders. Ensure that they are available and willing to provide an honest and positive while in-depth evaluation of you and your work. It's also great to remind them of when letters of record due. You can probably talk about how faculty are really busy, and sometimes they just need a little gentle nudge to say, hey, by the way, don't forget to turn that in. And then lastly, remember that you can have different recommenders for different purposes. So you can have a different set of recommenders for the program, and then for visiting days, if you'd like, you can have a different set. That's completely okay, because those two processes are separate. So however you would like to do that, they can be asked different things. So again, you can have recommender do both, or one for the program and one for visiting days. Speaking of visiting days, another piece of recommendation, maximize your interview interests. So generally speaking, we ask prospective students to let us know 10 places where they would be interested in interviewing. Sometimes I only have people let me know 1 or 2 where they want to interview. And while I can definitely appreciate being, you know, ride or die for one particular place, if FSU is a goal for you, really maximize your options to help you find the best experience. Just because you write down 10 options doesn't mean you'll necessarily get to interview at all 10 places. Some of that is a scheduling issue, but we really will try to maximize the amount of interviews you have while you're here, but also don't self-narrow if you're truly open to other experiences. Resumes also should be sure to indicate transferable experience. So again, we just updated our website. So if you go to our main page and look under assistantships, you'll find a new link. It's actually just visiting days, education.fsu.edu/visiting-days. You'll see a pretty specific dropdown that talks about and houses the FSU Career Center guide, which will really help provide applicants with some verbiage that will be able to showcase those transferable experiences. Highly recommend that FSU Center Career Guide, and a big, big thank you to our friends over in the Career Center for being such a fantastic resource for us. So I do see one question here, so I'm going to jump in if that's okay. Yes. Fantastic. And so, Dr. Schwartz, does Florida State offer an EDD in higher education?
We do. Is that it?
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. We have had an EDD for some time, and we are slowly but surely moving to a more online presence for the EDD in particular. The other half of our department, ELP, has been providing an online EDD for close to 4 to 5 years now, and it's evolved slowly. We were the first department at the university to offer an online doctoral degree. So we've had tremendous success and response, and we're trying to slowly but surely provide the opportunity for students, especially those at a distance who want to continue to work full-time, to have the option of an online doctoral degree. That would be the EDD in higher education, which they can do in a cohort model, meaning you're admitted with a group of other people, and often those people become a very strong support even at a distance, which is something we've learned from the first several years of the EDD prospect. Most of these people are working full-time and doing the doctoral degree in addition, but we've pretty well committed and laid out the curriculum that if you begin in the summer of a particular year, we can't completely guarantee, because things can happen that are out of our control or your control, but you'll finish that degree within a 3-year span if you follow the curriculum.
We have one question from Twitter. Through being a student in the program, are you encouraged to go to professional conferences as a grad student?
Yes, yes you are. And on top of that, some, if not all departments, I know I don't want to say all because I'm not sure, I can't speak for other people, but mine actually gives me professional development funds too.
Nice.
So not only does it not come out of my own pocket, I'm able to learn things and save more money at the same time. There are also other means for professional development. There's a Graduate College of Congress, I believe.
COGS.
Yeah, COGS, that I learned about last week from Dr. Acosta, as well as funds you can apply to through the college education to gain additional funds for professional development. I do know as a second year too, well, I'm a first year, but second years have told me that they have received more professional development funds as a second year versus their first year, so that's also a depending factor. It depends on your department, but all in all, yes, your department will definitely support you going into professional development opportunities.
I would say that as a doc student, my level of involvement sometimes impacts the amount of funding assistance I receive. So if I'm just attending versus presenting, those numbers can look slightly different. So, you know, I went to ASH in Portland from Tallahassee. So that was a bit of a costly program to attend, but I was able to get funding both from COGS as well as ELPS departmental funding. And so that really helped to subsidize my experience. and frankly was able to allow me to be able to not only to have a wonderful experience at Ash, but add in to my budget a little bit of room to buy some books that might help with my dissertation. So very excited about that. And so I have another question. And this one looks like it may be more for students, but Dr. Schwartz, feel free to jump in. How do you feel FSU is preparing you to help students who face issues with things such as racism or gender inequality or socioeconomic status troubles? It's thoughtful.
All right, so I guess I'm going to start first.
Sure.
So to address a couple of those, there are actually classes that address these, including diversity in higher education, leadership in higher education, even history of higher education, just talked by Dr. Schwartz right here, has multiple books that actually touch on these topics exactly. So you're actually developing a more holistic view of higher education. So yes, you're going to learn how to serve students to the best of your ability, your practitioner role, but you're also learning about the history behind it. A lot of theories behind it are student development theories too. All those classes are listed in our master's student handbook that you can actually find on the website also. That's very helpful. We actually want to see class descriptions. So that's how it is in terms of the actual academic part. But outside of that, in terms of professional development, I didn't mention earlier, you don't necessarily have to go to conferences to get professional development. There are actually sessions here you can do through Ally Safe Zones 101, which is particularly for LGBTQIA awareness. And there are 3 different classes. It's a 101, 102, and a 201. In the 201, you become a facilitator. There's also many other types of conferences that you can do here on campus to get well involved. So if you face issues such as that, coming to this program will definitely make you a more versed person in order to handle these issues accordingly.
Yana, would you like to jump in and add anything?
No, I think that Alan really covered it. I mean, diversity, as somebody that took it this spring, I can definitely confirm that just the coursework that you do really engages you with things that you might not have really considered. And it definitely opens you up. Things that I honestly had not considered prior to coming to this program, I now kind of understand and really, and it's less learning and more, it's such an, I don't know how to word this, but you engage with it. And that's the biggest thing. It's very hands-on and it's a very participation based. And that's what I really want to emphasize is that you don't just, it's not a passive class.
Very nice. I would also say that in the doctoral program, we also address these issues. Sometimes we look less at how students face them personally with students and look more at the system. So, you know, my class this year is looking at how we disrupt systems that promote racism, that promote sexism, that promotes this false narrative of what people should get out of higher education or have to do to get into higher education. You know, whether that's looking through various lenses or how we in our various roles coming out of our programs can maybe become people who disrupt those systems to really help students in a bigger way than maybe that one-on-one piece, but really work to really transform our higher education system in general. Anything you'd like to add?
I think you've all said it very well. Specifically, there are courses, not only the diversity class, but some other courses, a couple I teach are women in higher education, historical perspective, and Black and Latino education, history and policy. So those are very clear delineations about both a historical and a contemporary perspective on diversity issues.
Very nice. Any other Twitter questions that we might have? Not at the moment, okay. So one of the questions that we had a little bit earlier, and so if you all would like to jump in, how was visiting days for you all? What was your experience?
I think for me, I went in person. I was actually hosted by a second year. And it was honestly, because I was hosted and I went to 2 other visiting days. And honestly, this was the best experience that I had, mostly because they were so welcoming. And my particular host was honestly great. they're supportive, they're transparent. I mean, that's something that was really emphasized at my visiting days and during my visiting days experience is just transparency. There is nothing really hidden, and your host, especially, I mean, host and buddy, are really honestly, in my experience, like your best asset, and you will form those bonds real quickly, because I know that I still talk with my current host on a regular basis.
Nice. How about you?
And to add on to that, definitely my visiting days experience was very welcoming. One thing I was big on was I needed to feel like I would have a firm sense of community and feel supported in this program, and I definitely felt that from not only my host, but also the professors I met, and as well as the doctoral students. So I was surprised that the incoming doctoral students, we were actually able to mingle with them, and there wasn't a power hierarchy in terms of keeping the master's students separate from the doctoral students. We're all in the same room multiple times, so it's not like you feel inferior to anybody. And that definitely spoke out to me a lot. And that definitely told me how the higher education program in general definitely aims to help connect those particular students and also serve students to their best ability at the same time. To add on to that, I went to like another visiting days, and I just felt like here was the best fit for me. The program made sense. The master's handbook is very, very, very clear and detailed. So any questions you may have, actually that might answer all your questions. To be completely honest with you, please read it. It's very helpful. So that way you can come in with like more detailed questions in terms of like, oh, I saw this in the handbook. Can you expand more on this and things like that? But it's definitely very helpful. But I had a great experience during visiting days, and the interviews weren't too bad. It was very much conversational in nature, and my host was great.
I will say that sorry, Dr. Perez-Faulkner, I think we are able to hear you now.
Oh, great. Hi, everybody. I just got in from the Dominican Republic and have been coming in and out of Wi-Fi and listening along while moving along through the Atlanta airport. I love the Tallahassee airport. It's really easy to move around in. It just doesn't have that many direct flights. So I'm sorry to have missed you all, but just want to share my encouragement of all the great things that everyone is doing and that we're so excited to read your applications. And I have to join a working group from the delegation for dinner in just a sec, but I look forward to continuing to read, and just I'm really appreciative of this kind of conversation and opportunities to continue to engage. So I hope to see you all in February, and we'll remain engaged afterwards, and we'll engage with the Twitter chat once I'm settled. Thanks so much, everybody. Okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Bye. Thank you. I'm sorry to not be there. I'm wearing my Elevate Ed shirt.
Nice. Very nice.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So a question we did get earlier, and I know Dr. Perez-Faulkner had to run, but Dr. Schwartz, can you tell us a little bit about your peers as far as some of maybe their research interests, if you happen to know them, as well as some of their advising styles? Like, what can students expect from their professors and their advisors when they're here?
Good question. I can speak to, we have a wide range of research interests, which may or may not be of particular concern or interest to you at the moment, but it makes a difference in terms of the program, what people are actively engaged in. Dr. Perez-Faulkner has been doing a lot of work on STEM and minority students and women in STEM areas, which is science, technology, engineering, math, those kinds of areas in particular. Dr. Bertrand Jones, excuse me, has had years of work now with the Sisters of the Academy, encouraging African-American women to seek out positions in graduate school as doctoral students or as early career faculty. So a lot of her work has been in that area and beyond. Dr. Brad Cox has done a lot of work of late, especially in autism with college students, which is very interesting. We have the Center for Post-Secondary Success, which is headed by Dr. Shuping Hu, which the center looks at post-secondary success. A lot of their interest is focused on community colleges, which is success in general of students getting into and succeeding in college. And they've required a number of federal level grants of several $1 million to encourage and support those activities. just a quick taste of some of the work that people are doing. Dr. Christine Mocher is one of our newer faculty. She was on her own as a researcher, did a lot of work actually with the Center for Post-Secondary Success before she came on full-time as a faculty member. She has a very strong interest in higher education policy. So I know she's anticipating some, hopefully some big grants in the next year or so as well.
And do you feel like you could tell us a little bit about Dr. Guthrie or Dr. Beatty?
Dr. Guthrie and Dr. Beatty and Dr. Watkins are all involved in the leadership development program, primarily focused on the leadership certificate for undergraduate students, which has sort of become a hallmark of the program as well. But they also teach in the graduate program and have some experience that they share in teaching some of our basic courses along with the rest of the faculty. But their responsibilities are somewhat split between the undergraduate leadership program and the higher education program at the same time.
Nice. And then another question that had come in was, why did you choose FSU? And so I know I asked our first speakers that, but can you all tell us why you chose FSU?
I think the biggest reasons that I chose FSU were, first, distance. This was the second closest program to my home. I'm actually from a little town called Niceville, about 2 hours west, and that was a huge plus. But also, I think the cohort model was something that really drew me as somebody that went to that was in an honors program at my alma mater, UWF. I'm used to kind of growing with people and really engaging with people as we kind of progress through the years. And so this idea that I would be entering something that I was a little bit familiar with and to have that community already set was something that really honestly drew me a ton. And it's something that I still enjoy today. I love it.
Yeah, so why FSU for me? So before visiting days, I have a mentor who's a vice president of student affairs, and he spoke very, very highly of Florida State, as well as other of his colleagues who are also BPSAs. So you're hearing multiple people from very executive roles in universities speaking so highly about Florida State's higher education program. You're going to look at it because you're going to say, okay, what did they do well? And I kind of want to be a part of that. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, this guy actually taught my mentor when he was in the emphasis program. So I heard great stories about this guy right here. He's brilliant. He knows a lot about the field. You will learn so much from him. So that's what got me to apply to FSU. Once I set foot on campus, I love red brick architecture because I know that's more historical in terms of upholding intelligence, as I learned in his class. I also definitely love the community that I saw. It was in Florida. I'm from Ohio, and did my undergrad in North Carolina. I like to go to new places just to see how well I can adapt to things and also meet new people, new networks, things like that. And I feel like everyone had my best interests, and as well as I know not all programs in higher education do tuition remission, so if it didn't, that automatically got knocked off my list, to be completely honest with you, because I'm very cost effective. So everything just kind of spoke to me, and even when I was at other campuses, it didn't feel the same as when I was here at FSU visiting. So I knew this was a fit for me.
Very nice. And we have come to the end of our time, but as we end our program tonight, I would really like to thank all of our students, but especially our students and our faculty member for their assistance tonight. We definitely appreciate having you all here, and thank you for your time. If you had a question tonight that wasn't answered on this program, please let us know. You can tweet us. Again, that's at FSU_HESA. Yes. And big shout out, big thank you to our Higher Education Student Association, HESA. Most of the panelists you saw tonight, as well as Hannah's role, is through HESA. And so we really appreciate, as a higher education program, being able to partner with HESA. We also want to give a big thank you to Hardee Center. So Michaela is the associate director there, and really runs the Hardee Center. And if you're more interested in more information on that, please feel free to let us know. Tweet at us, email, whatever you need to do. We want to make sure you make an informed decision as far as which programs you may choose. And so if there's anything that we can do to help, just let us know. Thank you all, and thank you for joining us. Thanks, and have a good night.